Homes are now accepting admissions. Visit mvc.dps.mo.gov.
At the KSMO studios, time for us to sit down with our friends from the Salem Memorial Hospital. And Deborah Hobbs made her way in. Hey, Happy New Year to you. Oh, we've talked to Deb before, and obviously we talked about a number of different things. It's still kind of flu season, still kind of COVID season. We got all that, but we're going to talk a little bit about something a little bit different today. Yeah, we haven't talked about this in a while, have we?
No, we have not. We're going to talk about some reportables, like animal bites is a big thing. Dog bites, cat bites, raccoon bites, bats, humans, any animal bite basically should be reported.
There are a lot of different animals when you live out in the country, aren't
That's
there?
true. That's
true. Snake bites,
Yes.
There's rats and there's wild rats and even mice bites. Not a major thing. Usually mice don't try and attack unless you try and kill them or something of that nature. But still, I saw a possum this morning. You do not want to get in a fight with a possum.
No.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about these different reportables. Why do people need to report it?
Well, one, you have to worry about rabies.
Right.
So the things that I look for when we have someone come into the emergency room, the first thing they do is just give me a call to let me know they've got one. It's important to know the date that it happened because you have a time frame or a window for the rabies vaccine if you need to get that. Another thing to know about, like a dog bite, the breed of the animal, if you know what it is. I mean, because a bite from a mastiff is way different than a bite from a chihuahua. Those bigger dogs, bigger bones, they break bones sometimes when you get bit by them. So something to be really concerned about. Circumstances regarding the bite. Was the animal provoked or not provoked?
Well, never provoked. You know that. We're never provoked.
No, never.
Well, and people sometimes don't understand. And sometimes it's self-defense on the animal. We were talking with Kevin Kreider moments ago where curious people on hikes will sometimes follow feral hogs. They just, I've never seen one. Okay, I don't know why anybody in their right mind would want to follow a feral hog, but if you get near to where it's a mama feral hog and she's got youngins, that mama hog's going to turn around and she's going to defend those youngins. Now, you may not think you're provoking it, but you are.
But yeah, you are. I mean, they get in that defensive mode, and they're going to protect. So
and they're not nice when they're in defensive mode.
No. Not even an old mama hog that you have out in your pen.
No. They're not nice at all. And they're there to defend to the death.
True. So it's just important information that I have to report all these bites to the health department, to the county that they live in, the person lives in. And sometimes I involve the local health department here just for follow-up reasons. But,
well, they're closed today in case you...
Yeah, so we can't follow up today. No. But, if someone chooses to get the rabies vaccine and in the emergency department, then we got to follow up. We got to make sure that they got the full series,
Sure.
All that stuff's kind of important. We need to know if the rabies vaccine is up to date on the animal, if it's the patient's pet. So where is the address of the animal? Where could it be located? Sometimes when it's the person's own pet, like their own cat or something, law enforcement doesn't have to be involved. Most typically they are, and they come out and they make a statement, but if we need to quarantine the animal, have they done that? Can they do that, and can we locate them? So all those things are kind of important.
And check with the animal's veterinarian and make sure it's distemper and rabies shots are all up to date.
True. And is there any unknown something that the dog may have behavior-wise or whatever, just like you said, temperament. And then the other thing, of course, we're concerned about is the injuries incurred, types of wounds that you get from these bites. And if you wait a few days before you come to the emergency room or your family doctor to get checked out, how infected is it? Some of those get really infected. So that's another thing. Are we putting them on the right antibiotics?
Sure.
And all that kind of stuff's important. It's a process for infection prevention myself to report the animal bites and complete my investigation. Sometimes I have to call them, if I don't have enough information in the chart. And so I call them to get more information so I can pass on as much information as I can for
when,
follow-up.
when people, and I remember this with snake bites especially, and
Mm-hmm.
I remember, I never really thought about when I lived in the city, if you saw a snake, it usually was a garter snake, if that, and nobody really bothered it. But,
Yeah.
you've got different types of snakes here. You got, anything, you can find a rattlesnake around here, but you can also find a number of different snakes. But if you have a copperhead or something of that nature, you need to see which kind it is, because there are different vaccines for the different types
Right.
of snake bites. Some
True.
can
True.
be, some can make you very sick. Some won't do really anything to you. But the venom in there, you have to have the right combination of
right.
drugs, antibiotics to treat that properly, correct?
Correct. And sometimes, you try not to have to treat with the antivenom and stuff like
Sure.
that, because there's lots of things you have to worry about, with a snake bite. Again, is that big cellulitis. I don't know if you've ever seen that from a snake bite.
Mm-hmm.
You can get that third compartment syndrome, lots of swelling. I've even seen where huge, correct, where they even have to go in and do a little cut just to allow that pressure and stuff to. So it's really important, if you know what it is, or to let us know that, and follow up. Like you said, some people do fine and they don't have hardly any symptoms, and then some people just are just the opposite and have lots of symptoms, and it can be pretty serious.
And we're talking bites here, but bee stings as well.
stings as
if,
well.
If it's a honeybee, that's a one sting and done. But if it's a yellow
Hornets.
jacket
Yeah.
or a wasp, you can have numerous stings. And if you have an allergy to those stings, it can be very serious.
It can be very serious, absolutely. And a lot of those people that are that allergic to bee stings or wasp or yellow jackets, like you said, will have EpiPens and stuff like that on their person.
But they don't know.
But they don't know. And if you don't know, and there's people that maybe don't have never had an allergic reaction, but if you get stung multiple times, people actually will get that weak feeling, be dizzy, lightheaded, that kind of thing. So you just have to be pretty cautious, I guess, or aware of your surroundings when things like that are. I know a kiddo once, way back in the day, these towers that we have that you can climb.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
They were climbing a tower, and he got stung several times.
Oof.
And didn't have an anaphylaxis reaction, but he got that lightheadedness and stuff like that, and really kind of just felt weird.
Not a place to get lightheaded when you're climbing a tower 100
exactly
feet in the air.
not. But he did fine, but still, you just never know, and those can be pretty serious.
Very serious. And another thing that we talk a little bit about with bites and insect bites as well. It's not
Right.
just animal bites, but
True.
insect bites. And there have been some report areas of fire ants actually in areas very close to us here. And fire ants, that can be very dangerous, can't it?
Mm-hmm. Yes, they can. So, again, I don't know if you know this, but I read this recently, and when you said that, it made me think of this. If you put fire ants and black ants in a jar, they don't do anything. But if you shake that jar up, it's like they don't like each other. So then one will start trying to kill the other one. But yeah, and fire ants, it's not a comfortable feeling if you get bit by a fire ant. And so again, you have to worry about infection, allergic reactions, all those kinds of things. So,
Now, you'll blister up quick with
Yes,
a
you will.
fire ant. And the thing is, if you get numerous fire ants, it can really mess up your system.
yes.
Because you're trying to fight off the bites everywhere all over your body if you get a whole bunch of them, and that's not exactly
No.
what you want to see.
Nope, it's not. So I just kind of wanted to put that out there so people are aware when they come to the emergency room, to give as much information as possible, because all that information is helpful when we have to report it, send it on, and just to follow up with the person.
So try to get as much information as you can, and try and remember exactly when it happens. Jot it down,
Yeah.
If you can, because you're probably going to get asked the question more than
That's
likely.
true. That's true.
When you get to the hospital. So whatever you can prepare, and if you're on medications too, because some medications actually can open you up to a little bit more of maybe a reaction because of the drugs they're taking.
True. That's always a possibility. So we always have to be aware of that. Let's see, what else can I tell you about that? It's just some of those folks that do get bites or whatever, maybe they wait a few days down the road. If it was a bite, a a significant puncture or whatever that they could have had a stitch, or when you wait so long down the road, you can't have that. I mean, it has to just kind of heal open, second intention, I guess is what they call that. So that's important things to think about too. Do you need that closure to help it heal better and decrease risk of infections?
Infection is what you really have to worry about.
You do have to worry about that.
Because you have a foreign body entering your body, and will your body fight it off, or will it create an infection? And that infection can be long lasting, can't it?
It can be, and more serious the longer lasting it is. I mean, those people with lower immune systems, those people that have maybe poor skin turgor, that grow an infection. We all have staph on our skin, but some of us grow it better than others. So when you have a foreign body introduced to your skin, like a bite or whatever, you just increase that risk of infection.
You're bringing up such good news.
I know.
Well, but it happens every day. It really does.
Yes.
But it's something that you need to be aware of. And I think a lot of people, I remember years ago, gosh, when I first got here, I got a tick. I was out working outside and was trimming up some bushes, and didn't realize I got the tick. It was right at my belt, got right underneath there, didn't know it. And about 3 days later, man, I had this huge blister, and I was like, "What the heck? My belt was hurting." So it was a tick. It was buried in there, and I think, oh man, I was able to actually find the head and was able to pull that sucker out, but then you have a lot of discharge.
Yeah.
So what do? Do I run out to the hospital now? And I actually went to the health center, and they just gave me an antibiotic shot. But, nobody even heard of Rocky Mountain fever, spotted fever back then. Nobody heard about that stuff, or Lyme disease. I just got rid of that. But I mean to tell you that it was about a good quarter size. And of course, belt rubbing on it didn't help.
Nope.
Nope. And so anyway, but people need to be aware of those things because they can lead to much more serious, long-lasting consequences.
Especially like the limes and stuff out there now, and the allergy staph legal, and some of that's related to tick bites, and it's just ongoing, and we're just seeing more of that. I mean, it's just stuff that's been dormant for years is now rearing its head, and you're just seeing tons of different stuff now.
And nobody has a reason why.
No reason. So
I don't either. I don't have any other reasons. Okay. So what other things do you have to report?
Elevated lead levels. I mean, that's another thing that's been, you hadn't heard of it for a while, and now we're starting to see some of that in kids. You can have elevated lead levels. We'd like to see no lead level in a kid, but you have like an elevated lead level, and you can have a critical high lead level. Both of those being a concern. So when we see that, we're kind of thinking about the surroundings, the environment that the kiddo is in. The best way to know if your child has been exposed to lead is to have their blood tested. Children with certain types of insurance, the insurance requires it between 24 and 72 months, especially if there's been no record of ever being tested. They should be tested just to have that baseline. Lead can be found throughout a child's environment. Think about these old homes people are buying, the homes built before 1978, or the paint used in the home were lead-based paints. And now that was banned, the lead-based paints, but you still have those homes out there. And when paint cracks and peels, it creates a lead dust. And so kiddos that play, and of course, toddlers, everything goes in their mouth. So when you have that dust, they can inhale it or get it in their mouth. Right. So it's really important that you keep that swept up, cleaned up, use a wet cloth to do that.
But a lot of people just used to paint over old paint.
Yes.
And that was the problem.
Yes.
Because it's lead paint. Maybe the initial coat back in 1960 was lead paint. Now they painted over it 5, 7, 8 times. But eventually that paint, like you said, chips. And they don't have to actually eat the paint. It's that dust that comes out.
The dust.
And I think people say, well, my child's not been eating that paint off the wall. It doesn't have to be. But if they rub their hand on that wall where that crack is, and there's lead dust coming out, that can be the source, can't it?
That can be the source, yeah, true. And there's other things. I mean, Water sources, you always want to check your water sources to make sure you don't have that high level. I think there's, I don't know exactly what the level is, but I think there's a certain level that
Right. It's acceptable.
that's acceptable.
But
Yeah, certain water pipes may contain lead.
and that's becoming a big problem right now. It's the water pipes. It's not the water.
It's right, it's the
Yeah.
water pipes.
And the longer it sits in those pipes, the more lead it actually absorbs. And it's
True.
not through the pipe itself. Usually it's through the solder, because the solder is lead.
True. You know, I never thought about this before because I like using cast iron. But the more and more you cook with cast iron, actually, you can get a little bit of a lead level through that.
That's
I
true.
don't know. I don't know how high it would be or anything like that. I don't know that, but I just realized this recently, and I'm thinking, man, I love cooking in cast
Yeah.
iron, but I never even thought about that.
Yeah.
You know, so that's another.
That's one reason why you're not supposed to wash cast iron.
Yeah, and I knew that. I knew
Yeah.
that you shouldn't.
Yeah.
You know, but I didn't realize. I didn't even think about that really. And that's the thing about it. We don't think about
No.
kids having elevated lead levels and things like that. And you know how toddlers are always putting things in their mouth. You know,
Sure.
kids below the age of 6, you know, they don't think about it. They just do what they do. You know, they're just kids. But you know, the old metal cars were painted with lead paint.
Sure. Leaded gasoline.
Yeah. So
Everything was
like,
leaded.
right. So you know, you look at their environment, where they live. Do they live by an airport where they used to use a leaded gasoline and pistons and stuff like that?
Oh,
That's
yeah.
in the soil and stuff like that. So you know, it's just if that occurs and your child does have a little bit of an elevated lead level, that's some of the things we look at. You know, their environment. You know, what are the things they play with, because lead's in jewelry and toys and. I don't know anybody who still does mess with the model cars. Does some of that paint still have lead in it? I don't know. I don't
No,
think
I
so,
don't
but
think
I,
it
you
would.
know, I
No.
wouldn't think so now, but it used to.
Yeah. Oh,
You
yeah.
know.
Years ago.
Stained glass work. You know,
Yeah.
people who do stained glass
A
work.
lot of lead. Usually a lot of solder in stained glass work, and that's
True.
lead. That's lead beading. Yeah.
True. So anyways, we want to get those kids checked out like we're supposed to, and you know, get that lead level test done when they're of age. You know, there's a certain age that we do lots of things, that we do lots of immunizations, different stages of age and stuff like that as they grow. So, I mean, that's one of the things you'd want to get checked.
You know, and what I was going to ask you, since you're in here doing reportables, you know, right now this is National Radon Month. We don't hear a lot about radon that much anymore. You usually get a big push of it this time of year. But if somebody would have radon in their house, which usually indicates that it's in the ground around that area, do they need to report that to you?
I don't.
Because it is a dangerous gas.
True. I would say maybe more your local health department that can be reported to me. Like if you have somebody come through the emergency room and this is the problem or the cause, yes, they're going to start with me, and then of course I'm going to reach out to the local health and report everything that I know. But that's probably where.
Okay, so take
Yeah.
it to Denka
Yeah.
Health Center and let them know that you have. And there are radon kits out there, and I know people, if they have elevated levels, they are supposed to report that to the EPA. But I think you need to report locally, too,
Right.
because they need to know if there's an issue in a certain location and why there'd be radon gas there.
True. And it starts there, you know, or it starts. I'm more than happy to direct anybody in the right direction, and I can't say that I have seen that in the time that I've been in this role.
I've not
but-
seen it here in Denton County,
You know, but-
all it takes is one.
Right. You know, it's like I still report COVID and flus, but like RSV, even though we know it's out there and they're like across the state, there's been an increase in that. But unless there's an outbreak, you know, like if you had 3 kids from one school that came up with RSV, then would be reportable.
Sure.
An outbreak, so to speak. But just to have single cases come in here and there, I don't have to.
You don't know where
report
they're coming
those.
from.
You don't know where it's coming from.
Yeah.
Right.
So a trend is one thing, just an isolated incident is a totally different thing.
True. It is.
Okay, very good.
So some of the things you might need to know if you get your child tested for lead, if they do have a little bit of an elevated lead level, well, then your provider's going to follow up with you on that, and they're probably going to have you come back and do another test. A lot of times when they do a lead level test on a kid, they might prick their heel or, you know, and test it that way. But then if they have to come back for a second test, they like to have that venous where they just draw from a vein
Sure.
to get, the best accurate
Okay.
information. So basically, I just kind of want to put that information out there, make people aware, since we are seeing a few more of that than we have been, just
Yeah, I mean, for years you didn't see any of that.
No.
And I do want to bring out, if you do have that lead paint issue at your home, and you do know that, the MRPC actually has a lead remediation program. It doesn't cost you anything. That they'll come down and they actually will do a sample of your house and find it if there is lead.
Right.
And if there is, they'll help you get rid of it. And that is a real big thing, especially if you got youngins, to get taken care of, because remediation, usually for lead, kind of like asbestos, Deb,
Right.
it's not cheap.
That's- no.
If they're going to do it for free, because they got a grant to do this, and all you got to do is call the MRPC. I think it's 265-2993. I think
I
it
think
is.
you're right.
And then just give them a call and just say, hey, I understand there's a lead remediation. You guys check that, and you have a grant for that to get rid of it if there is some in my house, and they can guide you in the right direction. I can't remember the gentleman's name that was doing that, but we had him on the air here about a year ago. And it's a great program. They still offer it. I think it's a 5-year program they have, so it didn't have to be done right away. But if you've got lead paint that's still on your house or still a part of your house, and some people had it on their barns.
Yeah.
So what happens is they take down their barns and they burn that wood. Guess what? That lead goes up in the air, and guess what? You breathe it.
You
And
breathe
guess
it.
what?
You breathe it.
You
Right.
got it in your system.
Right.
So it's anything like that. And I equate that to something of some people who have very bad allergies to poison ivy. Some people go burn poison ivy thinking they're getting rid of it.
Oh, but yeah.
And
so-
all you're doing is putting the oil in the air. For those people who are extremely allergic, if they breathe that in, they're going to have poison
Yeah.
ivy in their lungs. I don't even want to, I'm very allergic to poison ivy, but I don't even want to dare think what that would be like, to have that inflammation in my lungs and not be able to breathe because of poison ivy.
Well, I don't know about poison ivy, but I've had asthma for quite some time, and much. It's really pretty mild now, but I've been to that point where it's very, very difficult to breathe.
Yeah.
It would not be.
Yeah,
it's-
and I would hate to have anybody have that happen just because somebody's burning it. To think they're getting rid of it, well, you're getting rid of that plant there, but you're spreading the oil into the air, and it will travel a long way, especially if it's a
yeah.
breezy day. So definitely want to watch out for those kind of things. We all think we're doing the right thing, and sometimes we're not doing the right thing.
True. But so I just kind of want to go over just a couple more things about the lead levels.
Sure.
Chronic exposure, and sometimes you don't know that you've even been exposed, but it actually can cause lower IQ because it causes these other things. I should go back just a little bit. It could cause damage to the nervous system, slowed growth and development, learning behavior problems. If you might see, you know how kids are always putting things in their mouth. Sometimes you see them eating dirt or whatever. Occasionally here and there, that's not really a big issue. But if they're being affected because of an elevated lead level, then that's an issue. You might not have thought anything about it before, but it might be something you think, why are they still doing it? You try to discipline and all those kind of things, to just keep things like that from happening. But maybe there's a reason for it.
Could be.
It can lower IQ, decrease ability to pay attention.
ADD and ADHD, I understand a lot of that was originally from lead levels, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, underperformance in school. I mean, just things. It doesn't hurt to get tested, especially if they've not ever been tested, just to have that baseline. So.
Very good. And how do they get tested? How do they get a lead test? Do they do that at the hospital? Do they do it at the health center? How do they get that?
Both. So if you're seeing your provider and you have a concern, ask your provider about it. They can order the test. We do them at the hospital.
Okay.
Also reach out to the health center, local health center.
Very good. Very good. Always good information. There's
Yes,
probably
it is.
information we don't always think about.
No,
More
we
than
don't
likely,
think-
very rarely do we think
Yeah.
about it.
So.
We don't get a lot of bites, and so you don't think too much about that. But when you do get a bite, you really need to be able to know what you need to do. I think a
That's
lot of
true.
us Especially, I know I grew up in the city and didn't really think too much. The bite I'd probably get would be a dog bite, from our own pet. And, that usually was not that severe, but still enough. But when you get out in the country, you run into all kinds of different things, and
You do.
you just don't know what's taking a little nibble out of you here and there.
Raccoon gets into the chicken house and you're trying to get them out. They're feisty little guys.
You betcha. Like I said, possums, they're pretty nasty. They rear back and they got some really sharp teeth, and you don't want to be fooling with them.
No.
But anyway, but there's just, and also watch out for those stray animals that are wild. Because they will actually, if they're looking for food, they'll get very aggressive.
Yes, they will.
So be very cautious of that. Deb, as always, we appreciate our
Thank
friends
you.
from the Salem Memorial Hospital coming by and informing us on different items. This one, reportables. I didn't really think too much about it until you came in and said that's what we're talking about.
That's what we're talking about.
And I'm trying to think of all the different things that, gosh, what you really need to know.
I can go a couple months or so and not have any reportables like cat bites, dog bites, or whatever. And then here recently, I report those. Well, I report them as soon as I get them.
Sure.
But to the hospital, I report quarterly, to administration. And actually, there's been several, and I'm thinking, holy smokes, I don't know where all this is coming from. But
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of different things out there that we need to be aware of, and it doesn't hurt to get a little bit more knowledge about them, but and this is a good way of getting it. Just
Yes.
listen in. So remember, these programs are recorded. You can always go back, listen to them again. If you missed a little bit or just joined us and said, I missed that about the snakes or whatever it was. So anyway, you can always go back, listen again on KSMOradio.com. We have that on our YouTube and Facebook pages. Deb, as always, we appreciate you coming in,
Thank you.
spending some time with us here at KSMO Radio. We have Civic Happenings coming your way next. Our friends from the Salem Memorial Hospital, spotlight on them. We do it every Wednesday when there's not a board meeting, obviously, and we bring them in. We actually had a board meeting. We're going to have Jason in tomorrow anyway. So
Yeah.
we got two for the price of one this week.
There you go.
Very good. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. And keep it here. KSMO Civic Happenings.